Hi, you're in the kitchen with Vita and the Family Eats. And today we're going to be doing a nice zucchini bread. The farmer's market has a lot of zucchini at this time of year. And so I wanted to show you that they're not just for savory dishes. They make a beautiful quick bread as well. So I'm just going to get started here. And we're going to need 2 cups. So I'm going to set one aside. This has already been washed. So we're going to get 2 cups on a box grater, all ready for you. Okay, so there's 2 cups of the shredded zucchini. You want to make sure that the seeds are all out of your mix, of your grater. You don't want the big zucchini seeds in your bread. This is just the flesh, 2 cups worth. Next, you're going to add 3 cups of flour. And make sure your cup is dry before you put it in there, of course. Now I have sifted this entire canister, so that's all we got to do is pour it in. There's 1. 2. 3. Okay. Done with your flour. Your next step is 2 cups of sugar, white sugar. Nothing heaping. You want everything level. There's your 2 cups of sugar. Next, we're looking at 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Half teaspoon of baking powder. We're going to look at 3 tablespoons of cinnamon, which I've already measured out. Next we have a half a teaspoon of nutmeg. I have, instead of vanilla extract, I'm actually using vanilla protein powder. And it gives the bread a little bit of extra healthiness to it, along with being a vegetable bread. I'm using 1 full scoop of very vanilla protein powder. Also, I like to add extra omegas and protein. These are organic shelled hemp seed hearts. It has 10 grams of protein and 12 grams of omegas 3 and 6. It's a very nutty flavor. Looks like cornmeal. Very good for you. Also, in this same one here, we have 1 teaspoon of salt and a half teaspoon of ground flaxseed for some extra fiber. So there's all of those ingredients. Okay, next we move right on to, we're going to have 3 room temperature eggs. Never crack on your bowl, not to get shells in your mix. There's your 3 eggs. Now for me, I like to grate in my planer a little bit of orange zest into my bread. I like it with my zucchini bread. Now in a lemon bread, you know, we use the lemon zest, of course. Don't go down past the white on the pith. These are just a couple of cuties I had in the fridge, like little mandarin oranges. Very sweet zest. And I take 2 of these. It gives me about a teaspoon once I get through both of them. And then I'll just save these later for a little snack while my bread is cooking. Now you don't have to do this. This is just an extra flavoring that I like to add to my recipe. My mom always did it. We were big on using a lot of citrus, a lot of lemon zest and orange zest, tangerine zest. I can remember peeling tangerines with my mom, and she would take all of the peels, put them in a little Ziploc, and throw them in the freezer and grate them while they were still frozen. There we go. Okay. You're going to take a good sturdy wooden spoon and start mixing. You're going to break up your eggs. And we're not completely done. I want to mix this together a little bit and get this incorporated before we add the last ingredient. Well, almost the last ingredient except for the topping. So this is all pretty incorporated nicely. Because once you get the next ingredient, which is oil, in there, you want to be sure that all of these dry ingredients are blended pretty well first, and you incorporate that grated zucchini. The egg keeps everything a little bit moist as well. So this calls for 1 cup of oil. This recipe makes 2 loaves. And now you're going to mix and mix until it's pretty well blended, almost completely, but not quite, because I like to add either walnuts or pecans to my zucchini bread, just for a little added texture, a little bit of different crunch, not just a soft bread. You don't have to. Some people like to do golden raisins. I'm not a real big fan of raisins in my breads, so I try to stick with some type of nut in any of my breads. So I just take the next size cup up and break up my pecans. I'm using pecans. You can use walnuts. Okay. And I like to use a good 1.5 cups. And that's usually good for 2 loaves. It gets it around. You don't want to put them in whole. Take them, break them up. They come in, obviously, pecan halves. You'll want to take them and just break them up. You don't want to chop them tiny, because you want to still be able to taste them and feel that crunch, because that's what we're doing it for, is for some extra texture in the bread. Now, also, while I'm doing this, these breads definitely freeze beautifully. If you got a lot of zucchini and you want to just take the day and bake on a rainy day or what have you, you have an evening to yourself and you want to fill it, make 2 or 3 loaves. When zucchini season isn't abundant and you're in the dead of winter and you're thinking, geez, sure wish I had some homemade quick bread that was fresh. And well, it may be in the freezer, but you still got all those fresh ingredients that you were able to use. So there's 1.5 cups of pecans, and you're going to incorporate those in to your batter. There we go. And make sure you get right down to the bottom of the bowl and make sure everything gets incorporated. You don't want to get to the bottom of the bowl and see, you know, a spoon of flour still sitting there, because you don't know if that's part of your baking soda or baking powder as well. So we're going to take 2 loaf pans. I have a glass pan as well as a metal. And I like how both bake. Doesn't matter to me either way. You want to make sure they're sprayed really, really well, even though you do have oil in there. Put your bottom sides now you're going to try to split this in half as best you can. And I start out slow, so you make sure that you have enough for both loaf pans. Go with our glass one here first. And just kind of eyeball it. You don't want the batter to go much more than halfway up the side, because you do want to give it room to rise a little bit and come up in your pan. And you go back and forth until you feel that you've got a pretty good split in each of your pans. Okay. It's a nice quick bread. Not a lot of crazy different steps. It's mostly just mix all your great ingredients together, get them in the pans, and get them in the oven. This is going to go on a 350 degree preheated oven. And one thing I didn't tell you here in the very beginning, I'll tell you now. Your breads, anything baking that you're doing is going to cook more evenly. These are warm still. They're not hot by any means, but I heat my pans before I start. So when you put this in here, this is going to move quite easily, and it's going to stay in your pan. You don't want it really hot, because then your nonstick spray is going to just roll right off. So you take both your pans, pound them just a couple times just to get bubbles to the surface. And as you can see, they're about even for height. This is going to be a little bit different shaped. It's a wider bread. This is a narrower one. So these are going to go in the oven. This is all we have to do. And when I come back, I will show you how to release them from the pan and how to slice them. But that is going to be a little bit, because these are going to need to go for 1 full hour at 350 degrees in your preheated oven. And there they are. Both loaves came out of the oven exactly an hour later. It's very tender, and they're both very solid. You can see that the bottoms are nice and golden brown. And as I said, keep one out, freeze one each time that you make them. Thank you. See you again next time.